This is a feedback video for the mini quiz that we had for 5.3 to 5.1 to 5.3. We're going to take up the questions together. So in the first question, we had to determine the equation and the vertex form of this parabola over here. And so there's a few things that I want to point out. This is the vertex form over here. And we want to take a look at, first of all, our vertex. What is our vertex? The vertex is that peak. It could be a high peak or a low peak. In this case, we have a high peak because the parabola is opening from the bottom and is going up this way. So our vertex is going to be 3, 1. And so what that gives us is our h values. It gives us our h is equal to 3, and then our k is equal to 1. And so what we can do there is we can go and write in our values. Y is equal to a, x, h is 3, so minus 3. Don't forget the squared up here. And then the k is 1, so plus 1. And so what's left now is to find that a value. To find the a value, I can just choose any point on this parabola here to plug into my equation, and then I can find a and plug a into that final value. So I'll choose an easy point here. It looks like I have 2, 0. So using 2, 0, I'm going to plug, so using 2, 0, let's write that down, 2, 0. I'm going to plug that parabola in, plug this point in, so I'm going to have 0 is equal to a, which is a because we don't know it, x is 2 minus 3 squared plus 1, and so that's going to be 0 is equal to a, 2 minus 3 is minus 1, and then that's squared plus 1, and then we're going to have 0 is equal to a plus 1. And if you solve, minus 1 goes on the other, so minus 1 to get rid of the 1 here, minus 1 over here as well. We get a is equal to minus 1. So that leaves us with an equation that is y is equal to negative 1. We don't have to write the 1, we can just write it like that. X minus 3 squared plus 1. So that would be this one over here. That would be the correct answer in this case. So that was question 1. Now we're going to move on and try the question number 2. So erase this ink here. The graph of y is equal to x squared is reflected vertically and stretched by a factor of 6. It is then horizontally translated to the right by 10 units and vertically to the top by 3 units. Which equation best reflects these transformations? So first of all, we know there's many types of transformation happening here: a reflection, a stretching, translation, horizontal translation by 10 units, and then to the right specifically, and then vertical translation by 3 units to the top. So we're going to start off by writing our equation. Y is equal to, we know what our a is going to be. Our a is going to be what we're stretching by 6, but also we have a reflection happening, which means our a is going to be negative. So we're going to have minus 6 as our a. X, we're opening brackets here because the reason I'm opening the brackets is because we're told that we have a translation to the right. Since we have a translation to the right, it's a horizontal translation, we have to have brackets there. And since it's to the right by 10 units, we're going to have our negative in here. So that's going to be negative 10 because our h is positive. And then don't forget to put the squared up here. And now we need to decide on our k. Our k is moving upwards, so that means it's positive, so plus 3. So let's go see if there's something that matches this here. Usually when you approach these multiple choice questions, what I recommend you do is you try the question out yourself first and then see if it matches any of the choices there. Going through the choices is very easy to make a mistake. So we know it's not this one, doesn't seem to work out here. Negative 6, x minus 10, squared, it looks like it could be this one. Let's go double check if there's any other ones there. So again, you could have been thrown off over here if you didn't see it. There was no negative there. And over here you could have been thrown off if you didn't see it. There was a positive in there instead. So you have to make sure you pay close attention. So this would be our equation, our final answer over here. Let's move on and do question number 3 now. Question number 3 you're going to see is very similar to question number 1. Except you don't have a graph to look at, you just have the information given to you. So determine the equation of the quadratic relation in vertex form if the vertex is 5, -3 and passes through point 1, -35. So what we have here is y is equal to a. We don't know what our a is. But we do know that our h value for a vertex is 5. So that's going to be x minus 5. Don't forget to put a squared here. And then our k value is -3, so -3. And all we need is any other point in the parabola in order to find a. So I'm going to choose this other point. I'm going to choose this point here because it's the only other point we have right now. And plug those values into y and x to find what a is. So y is -35. And that's going to be equal to a 1 minus 5 squared minus 3. So that's going to be -35 is equal to a times -4 squared minus 3. I'm going to get rid of the 3's on this side here, so plus 3 plus 3. So that'll give me, and then I'm going to simplify this here, so that'll give me -32 is equal to, so 4 squared is 16, 16a. Then I can divide both sides by 16. Cross that 16 out, cross that 16 out. I get a is equal to -2. So all I have to do is plug this a value into here. So this will become -2 like that. And so let's take a look if we have that. So here there's a plus there, so don't be tricked by that. Cross that out. Here, oh look, you're missing the squared value there. Everything looks good, -2, -5, -3, but you're missing the squared value there, so be careful. Here, we have -2, x minus 5, and then -3, that looks good. Here, 16, if you forgot to divide, you might have said 16 because it was next to the a, so it's a minor mistake that you could have made there. So our best answer here is C. So let's go ahead and erase and move on to the next question. Next question is more of a gloss over. It's pretty straightforward. If you know your transformations, you should be able to check off the right answers pretty effectively. So let's move down here. Erase a bit more ink here. So which transformations have occurred in this relation? Y is equal to this. So we know that there's a vertical translation. Now is it up or down? Well, since it's negative, we know it's down. It's not going up. We know there's a horizontal translation because of that plus 5 in there. This means our h is actually the opposite sign, -5, so it's a horizontal translation not to the right, but to the left. We also know there's a reflection because of that negative there, so a reflection definitely happened. And then we have to look at this 2 here. So since that's larger than 1, we know that that's not a compression, but rather a stretching by 2. So 4 transformations that happen, stretching and reflecting first, and then a horizontal and vertical translation happen. So make sure you look at the order so you remember what order you need to approach when you're doing these transformations on graphs. So here we have a practical application question, and you can see that I am an anime fan from this question here. Goku and Vegeta are going to watch the local fireworks display to celebrate Victoria Day. Goku notices that fireworks are launched from a barge on the water and burst in the air at different heights. The flight of one type is described by this equation over here, where h is the height of the firework reaches above the lake in meters, and t is the time in seconds since the firework was launched. What is the maximum height of the firework will reach? Well, that you should know is the k in your vertex value, the hk part. And so if you look at your vertex, we know that it's going to be 8, because it's the opposite of that negative there, 8, and 300. So the highest point, the height, the y value, is going to be 300. So it should be not 8, there's no unit there anyways, not 40, not 30, but 300 meters, because we're looking at that vertex. Vertex, again, being the highest point of that parabola. So here we have the same question, but this time we're asking you a little bit of the same scenario, but a different question. When does the firework reach its maximum height? So remember, the vertex is hk. K is the highest point. This is our y value. The y value represents the height. The height. When does that 300 happen? Well, it happens at the x value that's associated with that height. So in our case, the vertex is 8, 300, which means that the highest point is reached 8 seconds in. So it's about interpreting the problem in this case. Let's go to our next question. Same scenario, different question though. How high will the firework be after 4 seconds? Will this time represent height while going up or coming down? So in this scenario here, or in this question here, we're basically asking when t is equal to 4, what's h? So you're plugging that in. You're going h is equal to -5, 4 minus 8 squared plus 300. And we're going to solve that. So h is equal to -5 minus 4 squared plus 300. And so it's going to be h is equal to -5 times 16, which is -80. So -5 times 16 is -80 plus 300, which is 220. So we know that it's not going to be 80 because we found it's 220 meters, but we have to choose the right option because we asked, is that going up or coming down? Now keep in mind, this is 4 seconds in. Remember our vertex was 8, 300. What that means is that we don't reach 300 until 8 seconds are in. So if we're at 4 seconds in, we're still rising. Right, we will be at 220 eventually again because what goes up must come down, and we'll also be at 220 on the other side. But we're asking at this 4 second point, is it going to be the rising one or the going down one? And we know it's the one going up because it hasn't passed our vertex yet. If it was larger than 8 seconds, then yes, we could have said it's the one going down. And so that was the final question in this quiz. It was, hopefully you were able to understand the work involved. You need to make sure that you can show your work like we did throughout here. Best approach to these multiple choice is really doing the work first, then checking to see the answers rather than looking at the answers and trying to get to them. It's a bit difficult to do that. And sometimes looking at an answer might lead you to that answer by mistake anyway, so you got to be careful with that. So show all your work, use your notes before you do the quiz. I recommend you do these quizzes, even though they're practice ones, without your notes. Use them beforehand. Study as if it was a real quiz, so that way you know where you stand and you get real authentic feedback, as opposed to, here, I just copied this or I just copied a friend, and it's worthless really to you in the end because you're not going to improve and you're not going to be ready for the next level for grade 11. So hopefully that was helpful. Please make sure you try the quiz if you haven't already before watching the video, hopefully.